Hi everybody, Justin from Fireside Games again, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Hotshots. This is our cooperative wildfire fighting press your luck game. And the way this works is 1 to 4 players are going to take on the role of a hotshot crew trying to put out a forest fire. If they can put out all the flames, they're going to actually win the game. However, as flames get hotter and hotter, tiles will scorch, which means they turn to ash. If 8 tiles get scorched, the players lose the game, or if the fire camp gets scorched, players lose the game because that's your base of operations. It's got sweet plastic minis in it that are awesome flame minis. The fire is going to grow very organically from a deck of cards. Everyone has a special ability, and we've got special rewards and Firebreaks you can use to slow the spread of fire. So the gameplay takes about an hour. I'll give you a much faster overview of how to play, so let's get started and talk about what's in the game. So Hotshots comes with 4 crew cards, 1 for each member of the Hotshot crew, as well as the firefighter figures and their stands. Each crew card not only shows the special ability for each crew member, it also has the order of play at the bottom and a summary of the dice results for what you'll get when you roll. You also get 19 terrain tiles, which all have different challenges you'll need to roll when fighting fires on them. This is how you'll build the board and where you'll actually fight the fire. 16 reward tokens, which are double-sided with the backs being essentially blanks and the front showing you what rewards you get. And then there are also 15 Firebreak tokens that are used to slow the spread of the fire. There are 29 fire cards, which we're going to control how the fire spreads and grows. 6 firefighting dice. These are the dice you're going to roll when you're actually battling the fire. There are 6 different faces: the fireman, the Pulaski, a shovel, a hose, a McCloud, which looks like a rake, and then the chainsaw. There are also 25 plastic flame tokens, and this is what you'll use to mark the progress of the fire as it grows and spreads. You'll also get 3 vehicle tokens that are going to help you fight the fire. They're one-time use only, and they're going to be located at the air attack base tile. And lastly, there's the wind marker and the stand. This will be placed on the fire camp, and it's going to be used to indicate which way the wind is blowing. So to set up Hotshots, the first thing to do is to build the board. You want to shuffle all the terrain tiles together and then lay out the shape you're going to use for the board. Now this is what we kind of think of as our training scenario. It's described in the rules here as your basic one, but you actually have a lot of flexibility with how you want to lay out this board. If you want to make your own pattern, you can totally go for it. If you want some suggested tips, we came up with some layouts that mimic national parks. That can give you a lot of fun. And it doesn't matter where the tiles go. It's totally up to you. You can do them randomly. The point is you're going to end up laying your board out like this, and you get a lot of replay value out of that. So the next step is to get your tokens ready. You want to go ahead and leave the Firebreak tokens where everyone can get them. You'll want to mix up the reward tokens, keep them face down where everyone can reach them. Then you want to get your vehicles ready. All 3 vehicle tokens go on the air attack base, which is the one that looks like it has all 3 vehicles on it. Then the fire camp gets the wind direction marker. So that always goes on this tile, and you always want to start it when the game pointing up or to the north. And that's how you get those tokens set up. The next step is to get the fire deck ready. That's done by taking all the fire cards and pulling the 6 wind change direction cards out and putting them into 2 different stacks of 3. You're then going to want to split the fire deck, remaining cards, shuffle it up, split it into 2 separate decks, shuffle each set of 3 into its own deck, and then once you've shuffled those in, you'll compound those into 1 big deck, and that is how you build the fire deck. Set that aside. This is going to be how the fire grows. The next step is to place the starting fires in the game. And you can always tell which tiles will start on fire by looking at their scorch limit. The big number in the flame is the scorch limit, but see the little dot underneath? That's how you know it's a starting fire. And you will always put a number of flames equal to 2 fewer than the scorch limit on every starting tile. There are 6 that'll start the game burning. So because that's a 3, we put 1 flame on it. We look around and find the other one. Here's another 3 that gets 1. This is a 5, so it will get 3 because it's always 2 away from the scorch limit. We got a 4 over here that's 2. We've got a 5 over here that's 3. And we have a 4 over here. That's 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got all 6 starting fires. So the last set of steps then are for all the players to choose which character they want to be. They can go through the crew cards. You can deal them out random. You can choose the one you want. But for every player in the game, they get to be one of the crew members. Put those crew member tokens on the fire camp. Everyone takes the card, and the cards are double-sided. One side doesn't have the special ability, and one does. All players start the game with their special ability in play. So you want to get that set up, and then we pick our starting player by choosing who most recently put out a fire. Find that person, give them the dice, and they'll be ready to get started. Let's talk about terrain tiles. One of the most important features is this series of 6 symbols at the bottom. Those are the icons you need to roll when you're fighting the fire in order to put out a flame on this tile. The other important thing to note is the scorch limit. That's this number over here. That's the number of flame tokens that will cause this tile to become scorched. Now we'll cover scorching in more detail a little bit later, but what you need to know is when a tile scorches, it flips over, becomes ash, and that tile is now out of the game. If 8 tiles become scorched, the players lose the game. You also lose the game if the fire camp ever gets scorched. Also, this tile is related to the crew boss. You can see it has that icon up there, and the crew boss specifically mentions that they are connected to this radio tower. They need the radio tower to do their job. If this tile ever gets scorched, the crew boss has lost their special ability. They will play the rest of the game with their card flipped over and no special ability in play. So watch out, scorching is bad. A lot of terrain tiles also have a special ability you'll want to watch out for. For example, here in the lake, these symbols tell you something special about the lake. Specifically that the lake can never burn, but you also can't move through it. Over here we've got rough terrain, and its special power is that it takes 2 of your movement actions to move through it. We'll get to that later, but the point is, a lot of these tiles have additional info at the top you'll want to keep track of. So on your turn, you're going to follow the order of play that's written on the crew card in the corner, and it consists of 3 steps. The first one is to move your firefighter up to 2 tiles. The second one is going to be to fight the fire, which is usually going to involve rolling dice. And the third one is going to be draw a fire card and have something terrible happen. So movement is pretty straightforward. You get 2 tiles that you can move through. Pretty easy. There are a couple of exceptions though. If you move into a space that's on fire, your movement ends. You can't move through a space that's on fire. Also, there are a couple of tiles that have special effects regarding movement. You can never move into or through the lake. It has a no feet symbol on it, and moving into rocky terrain is extra hard for the firefighters. It takes both of their movement actions to enter or leave that space, so you'll never be able to move into that spot unless you're directly next to it at the start of your turn. A couple of other things to note are that players can move through each other, no problem, and there are benefits to having more than one player on a tile. We'll get to that later, but it's called support, and it's a great way to help fight the fire. For step 1, we're going to move the Swamper down here to fight this. The Swamper's special ability is that they can turn the rakes and the shovels back and forth into each other, so it's very good when there's a lot of rakes on that symbol. And the way this works is you're going to want to roll all 6 dice and try and match as many symbols as you can on that tile. The more symbols you match, the better the reward is going to be. You can see this chart explains how the reward system works. If I match at least 3 of the symbols, I'm going to get a Firebreak. We'll go over Firebreaks in more detail later, but basically they're going to let you put a break between the tile you're on and an adjacent one that will slow the spread of the fire, so it's very helpful. If I get 4 matches, I'm going to take 1 flame token off of that tile I'm fighting. If I get 5 matches, I would take 2 flames off, and I would get my choice of either placing a Firebreak or getting a reward token. And if I can get the elusive all 6, I take 3 flames off the tile I'm currently fighting, and I get a Firebreak and a reward token. And that's pretty powerful, because these reward tokens are basically superpowers you're going to get. They do all sorts of great things to help you and the whole team fight fires better. So, that's the idea and why you want to press your luck. Now let's take a look at how the dice engine actually works. We know the Swamper's ability is going to be helpful. Now let's see what I can roll. You always roll all 6 dice to start with, and the way the engine works is you're pressing your luck based against this recipe. I can stop at any time, but as long as I've matched at least 1 symbol that was still needed on this recipe, I can keep pushing my luck. So looking here, I went ahead, I got one of the firefighters, I got a chainsaw, and I have not one, well, I have 1 rake, but remember my special power is I can turn shovels into rakes, so I go ahead and flip that. I've got 4 symbols right there, and according to that recipe, that means if I stop right now, my reward would be to take 1 flame off. I can push my luck and keep going to get a better reward. Maybe I want a reward token, maybe I want a Firebreak. I could also stop instead of taking the flame off and put a Firebreak down if I wanted to take a lesser reward, but that's usually not the direction you're going to want to go. Here's the trick though. If I roll the dice again and I don't get the symbol I need, which at this point would have to be a rake, I would bust. And when you bust and you can't match a symbol, you have to add another flame to that tile, which leads it closer and closer to its scorch limit. In this case though, I'm going to play it safe, stop here at 4, which means I take 1 fire token off and end my turn. So after fighting the fire, the last part of your turn is to draw the top card from the fire deck. Now the spotter actually is going to draw 2 and pick which one goes into play and which one goes back to the top of the deck, but since I'm the Swamper, I don't have that ability. So I flip over the top card. Now there's a lot of different fire cards in the game, and they're all about growing or spreading the fire. This is a fire intensify card. You can tell it has a burning forest on it, it has these two different flames. And what this means is you're looking at tiles that currently are burning with these scorch limits, and one of each is going to go up by 1. So a currently burning 2 and a currently burning 5 are going to each get an additional flame token. So we look at the board, remember, only currently burning tiles matter. Well, we don't have a currently burning 2, so we can ignore the top value, but we have 2 currently burning 5s. So as a group, the players are going to decide which one we want to put the flame on. This one's closer to where all our firefighters are, so we'll go ahead and put the fire there. This would go in the discard pile, and that would be the end of the drawing the fire card and resolving the fire card phase. Now, real quickly, I'd like to go over the other types of fire cards you might see. Sometimes you may see an intensify that's the same number. This means 2 different burning 3s go up. Again, if there are no burning 3s, this tile wouldn't have an effect. Also, you may see a single intensify like this. This means a currently burning 4 tile goes up by 2. Other things you might see could be an ember card. These show a picture of a very particular tile in the game, and whether it's burning or not, this tile gets a new flame. So looking at this, it's the barn. We look on the board, whoops, we knock fire over. Then we look at the board, we can see the barn, it gets a fire. Other things you will see include wind cards. Wind comes in 2 flavors, a light breeze and a strong gust. You can tell the white and the black background would help make it different. A light breeze means the wind is going to blow in the direction that the wind is currently facing, and it will not cross fire breaks. So if we had a fire break, say here for example, and we drew the wind card, every currently burning tile is going to want to spread in the direction that the wind is pointing, which is north. So right now, it can't go off the edge of the board, so this fire doesn't matter. This fire would spread, this fire would spread, can't go off, can't go off. This one would, except that it has a fire break which blocked it, so we're glad we put that fire break there, aren't we? That's the difference, however, with the strong gust. Strong gusts jump fire breaks. So that means, yes, even though it has a fire break, the strong gust would have caused all the regular fire to grow, plus this one. The other things we need to watch out for are the really bad wind cards. There's strong combining wind and strong combining gust. These are very bad because if you'll notice in the other one, we just put fire where there was no fire. Combining winds will actually add fire. So in this scenario, again, it's a light breeze, so it will be blocked by fire breaks, but it does mean that a currently burning fire will add to an existing fire in addition to trying to spread to new tiles. So that means this fire would feed him, and this fire would feed him, this fire feeds him. These are very bad cards to run through the game. Luckily, there's only one of each. And like we said before, this one will jump fire breaks. The last thing to watch out for in the game are the wind change direction cards. This literally means the wind is going to now point in a different direction, and you can see it references the fire camp card. You'll want to orient your wind marker to match the arrow, and this is considered as a wind blow light gust. So in this case, the wind would now try and spread this way, this one would spread this way, this one would spread this way, and this one would spread this way. So we would never see this much fire in one turn. I'm giving you the example of all the fire cards, but that's how fire cards actually work in the game. Let's talk about Scorching. Whenever a fire token is added and it hits the scorch limit of a tile, it's going to cause that tile to scorch. So let's imagine for whatever reason, whether it's through a fire card or because a firefighter was actually fighting and failed their role, either way, this has now gotten its 5th flame token. Well, that's its limit, so all flame tokens are removed. We flip this tile over to show it scorch. Remember, this one is actually attached to the crew boss, so that's particularly bad for the crew boss's ability. And then, anytime a tile scorches, it spreads 1 new flame token to one of its adjacent terrain tiles based on whichever one has the lowest scorch value. So we have a 4, a 2, and a 3. That means this has to go here. Uh-oh, now we've got a 2 with 2 flames on it. This is a chain scorch. It actually causes multiple tiles to scorch in one turn. So the same procedure. We flip the tile over, and we spread 1 flame token to one of the adjacent with the lowest scorch value. Now here we have a 4, a 3, a 5, a 4, and a 3. So it's 2 different 3s. So the player who was involved in the scorch gets to actually choose. The team can talk about it and decide which one makes the most sense. I think we should put it here because we have a firefighter who can probably fight that one. You can see though that scorches can get out of control and spread really quick. One thing to note about scorches, if a firefighter is on a terrain tile and it gets its maximum limit in scorches, there's an additional rule that kicks into play. You resolve the scorch as normal. They all come off, we scorch the tile, you spread 1 to the lowest scorch value adjacent, which is this one, which, as we saw, causes a chain scorch. But now the firefighter that was there is still intact and fine. However, the whole team loses one die. It gets locked back at base camp. And that means that until another player ends their turn back at base camp, this die is out of play for all players. The good thing is when one player goes back and ends their turn, they unlock all the die that were locked up there. A couple of notes about scorched and movement. Firefighters can move through scorch tiles. They don't slow them down at all. In fact, they're easier for them to move through. Also, fire cannot spread through scorch tiles. These are like natural fire breaks. So if the wind tried to blow fire in either of these directions, it wouldn't be able to pass through that. It's very helpful to have. Again, you're still getting closer to your end game, but scorch tiles are actually somewhat helpful. Let's talk about support. It's one of the key ideas in the game, and it basically is that fighting fire on your own is pretty hard. When you're fighting, you have to match these symbols, and anytime you roll and don't match at least one, you're going to bust and have to add to the fire. This is a particularly nasty one because it's already at 4 with a scorch limit of 5. Support means having another firefighter, or more than one firefighter, with you, and the way it works is, for every firefighter with you, they give you one support, and a support is a forgiveness of a failed roll. So let's say I'd rolled this. I had my 2 hoses and 1 fireman. I go decide to press my luck. I get 1 axe. I go ahead and press my luck a little more. Uh-oh, now I got nothing. This actually would have been a fail right now. I would have lost and had to increase the fire, but because I have another firefighter with me, the support buys me forgiveness. Now I have the choice to either push my luck again, where I really might take the consequences, or I can stop and bank what I've got right now. Remember, if you bust, you don't get anything, so you want to make sure you stop at the right time. Also, the lake provides support. Every tile that is adjacent to the lake will count as if it has another firefighter with you. And support is cumulative. That means if you bring more people, you get more support. So right now, I would have 2 chances to roll badly without facing any consequences. And yes, that would include being at the lake. Now I'd have 4 chances, or 3, because I have the 2 people there in that one. So support is great. It's a key feature in the game. You want to fight this as a team as much as you can, but the fire's going to spread far and fast. You're going to have to go to different corners of the map to put it out. So let's talk about vehicles. They're a really powerful asset you're going to want to use in the game. And the way it works is, after you move, if you reach the air attack base, instead of rolling dice, you actually use the vehicles. Now, this works even if this tile is on fire, you can still use the vehicles. However, if this tile scorches, the vehicles are gone and out of play. So instead of rolling your dice, you can choose to use one of the 3 vehicles, and they're all based on the idea of dealing with the fire in 3s. Let's take a look at the first one, the air tanker. Pretty powerful one. This is going to take 1 flame down from 3 different tiles in a line. And that line can be either an actual straight line or it can be a curved line in any direction. What it can't be is a sharp triangle. The plane just can't turn that sharp. It has to make more of a banking turn. So you decide where you want to use it. Every vehicle token is 1 use only, so it's out of the game. Let's say we decide to go in this straight line. We take our fire tokens off and you ride along with each vehicle, meaning you are going to now be either at the start or the end of the fire tanker's run. So it's a great way to get free movement, and it takes fire down in a pretty powerful way. Another option is to use the helicopter. Now the helicopter is going to take 3 flames down from 1 tile, so it's kind of the opposite of the air tanker. And again, you're going to ride along with it. So this is a great way to bring down really scary fires, like this big one over here. We can take 3 flames off at once, and again, you ride along with it. So wherever the helicopter dumped its water, that's where you're going to end your movement. The last vehicle is the brush rig. This is basically an off-road fire truck that sprays water as it moves, and what that does, it's going to let you lay down a 3 firebreak line, kind of like a snake. So they have to be connected, but you can put them anywhere on the board. And say, for example, we want to cut these fires off. We can put 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. Nice way to just all of a sudden cut the board in half and limit some of this fire's ability to spread. And again, you ride along with it. The way this works is you will put your crew character on any of the tiles that are affected by fire breaks. So I could come over here and still end up back on this one, or I could be here, or here, or here. Whichever makes the most sense for me strategically. Vehicles are a huge asset. You're definitely going to want to use them to beat this fire. So one thing that's important to note about vehicles is the power line tile is too dangerous for vehicles to go near, so you can't use the air tanker or the helicopter on the power lines. You're going to have to fight that with just your firefighters. So let's talk about the crew abilities. The 4 crew members in this game are actually based on the real roles Hotshots have in the real world, and we've had to gamify them a little bit, but here's how they break down. The Swamper and the Sawyer are all about dice manipulation. The Swamper can turn anytime they roll a rake into a shovel, or vice versa, so they're really flexible that way. The Sawyer does the same thing, but they do it with axes and chainsaws. The crew boss is the one who keeps everyone moving. Literally, in this case, the crew boss on their turn, anytime before they draw a fire card, can move one other player one space as long as they have their permission. So that might be good to send someone to fight a new fire, or it might be even more beneficial to bring someone with you to get support when you're fighting a fire. The crew boss has a lot of neat powers that way. Lastly, we have the spotter. The spotter is the one who gets to draw 2 fire cards from the deck. They look at both of them and they can show them to the rest of the team. The team decides which one they want to have happen first. Let's say they want to go ahead and use this one. This one goes into play, meaning it goes on the discard pile, and the second one goes face down on top. So everyone knows what the fire's behavior is going to be next turn, and maybe they'll be able to get ready and stop it. That's how all 4 character cards work. And again, remember, if you lose the tile that's associated with your ability, you lose your ability. You still get to roll dice the same way, but that's all you've got. Let's talk a little bit about reward tokens. They're really powerful assets that you're going to want to use, and you're going to collect them as you play the game. Anytime you roll a 5, you get to choose either a Firebreak or a token, and if you match 6 symbols, you get a Firebreak and a reward token. You'll keep them in front of you for the whole game, but the trick is you can't use it on the same turn that you got it. You can only use it on the next turn. You can keep a total of 3, so if you ever end up with a 4th, you're going to have to get rid of one of those extra ones, either right away by playing it or just discarding it. You can use them anytime on your turn, and you can actually share them with other players. The way it works is, as long as you're in the same space with another player, if you're the active player, you can take one of their tokens from them with their permission. This can even be done if you're just passing through. So in this example, the spotter moves next to the swamper, asks if he can have this awesome boost token, and then moves on to finish their turn and can use this token to fight the fire. They're going to do different things based on modify your die rolls, get you extra movement, maybe move extra players, but they're really powerful and you're definitely going to want to use them to fight these fires. There's no way to do it without them. Let's talk about Firebreaks real quick. You get a Firebreak as long as you match at least 3 symbols, and the way it works is when you place a Firebreak, you have to put it on the tile you're currently on, and this is going to slow down the fire spread of the wind. So in this case, maybe the Sawyer here is going to decide to put it north because we know the wind is blowing north. If they then draw a wind card that is a light wind, the Firebreak will stop that wind from spreading. So this is a really great way to help contain the fire. Just remember, it has to be placed on the tile you're on, and it has to be placed right away. You can't save Firebreaks for later. Let's talk about terrain tiles for a little bit here. These are all the ones that have a special effect in the game. We have listed it in the back of the rules if you need a refresher, but here's a quick overview of what they do. This is the supply trailer, and it is connected to the Swamper's ability. If it scorches, the Swamper loses their ability. This is the mobile repair shop. It's related to the Sawyer's ability. Here's the radio tower. That's for the crew boss. And this is the lookout tower. This is for the spotter. Again, those get scorched, the abilities are gone. This is rocky terrain. It's difficult to move into. Takes both movement points. Here's the air attack base. This is where the vehicles are located and where you have to be to use them. These are the power lines. The only special thing here is that you can't use the air tanker or the helicopter on the power lines. Dry grass, nothing special, but it scorches at 1, so it scorches as soon as it has any fire on it. This is the lake. It's your friend. It gives you support everywhere around it, but you can't ever move through it. The propane tank is not your friend. When the propane tank explodes, guess what all those little flamey arrows mean? That's right. It puts, when it scorches, 1 fire to everything adjacent to it. Here's your fire camp, the one you need to protect and where you'll start the game. This is the lodge. It's sort of like a little version of the propane tank. It spreads 3 flames to the 3 lowest scorch values around it. And here is the supply cache. This is connected directly to your reward tokens. If this ever gets scorched, you lose your reward tokens. So these are the ones you're definitely going to pay the most attention to in the game. Let's go over the reward tokens. These are covered in the back of the rules, but a real quick breakdown. There are 4 of them that count as wilds, and you'll notice they have 2 different symbols, which means they can count as a die result of either of those symbols of your choice. It's one way to think of them is they can save you if you've busted. They can count almost like a support, but they can also be used as a sort of 7th die if you want to get yourself from a 5 to a 6 or something good like that. Super helpful. These ones relate to movement. This gets you 1 extra movement space and allows you to take your entire movement through as many flames as you need to cross. This is the smoke jumper. It lets you move yourself anywhere on the board immediately during your movement phase. And this is +2, literally lets you move 2 more spaces on your turn. The walkie-talkie is a little different in that this immediately calls another player to your tile, sort of warps them from anywhere on the board. This one up here means you don't draw a fire card when you play this token. This is a fire break that you can literally play any time on your turn, either after you fought the fire or while you're moving. Super handy to have. This is the doubler. It lets you count a single die that you've already banked as if it were 2 of that result. Very good for getting some of the nastier fires. And this, just like the symbol on a lake, means support. It's as if you had someone with you and it prevents 1 failure. Over here, we've got ones that deal with locking dice. If a firefighter is on a tile that scorches, dice are normally locked. This is the emergency shelter. If you play this, it prevents you from having to lock a die if you're the firefighter that was caught in the scorch. This is the unlock. You can play this on your turn, and it unlocks a die from the home base. Even if you're not there, you can play this. Very nice to have. Lastly, my two favorites. The green check mark means after you successfully beat a fire, and that can be anything from a firebreak to a full matching 6, you then get the result. So after beating a fire, you get to take one extra flame off of that tile with this token. And this one, after you beat a fire, you get a complete second turn. Now, one thing to note is you don't have to draw the fire card in the middle of your 2 turns, but if you got a flame token, or excuse me, if you got a reward token in the middle, you won't get to use that token because it's still the same turn that you got it. So play is going to continue until one of 2 things happen. Either 8 tiles get scorched, which causes the players to lose, the fire camp gets scorched, which is an instant loss for the players, or the players manage to put out all the flames, which is a win as a team. Good job, Hotshots, you pulled it off. And that is basically how Hotshots works. This is a game, like we said, for 1 to 4 players, plays in just about an hour. We're really excited for you guys to get out there and try it. If you want to know more about the game, please visit our website at firesidegames.com. You can download a copy of the rules. We'll have some promo items we'll be giving out here and there. And if you like this video and would like to see how to play other ones, we have how to plays for all of our games. We have a newsletter you can get that is a monthly update on what we're up to. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys at the next gaming table. Bye.